There was a chef series that claimed to follow looking through the blue zones and the image. Yeah, it's all garbage. It's all garbage, believe me. I've seen some of those, and it's complete and utter excrement, you know? They are very selective with what they pick deliberately to push their own line and all that. They'll ignore a whole lot of other things and even obvious things that sometimes they show in their videos. It's ridiculous. You know, they 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 talk about, like, there was one video that was talking about some of the people in and they were talking about the tortillas in that region as if they just even the lady herself let, oh, we make these tortillas, they just fill us so we can actually, grab all the juices, from, but you had this whole lot of meat that they'll producing and stuff like that, and all these dairy products and all that as pastoralists, and they were just using no different than the Swiss Alps, where they had a bit of like the old Zea bread type, like in Greece, the old Zea bread and stuff like that. But that's not the main staple. That's just a small amount. The rest of it's all dairy. And I was talking to my auntie yesterday because it was called her to wish her Christos Anesti for the Easter, which is, you say basically Χρόνια πολλά, may you have many years, and then you say Christos Anesti, which is God is risen, and she says Alithos Anesti, which is yes, he has. So this is the saying that we have amongst the Greek people, and we just got into it, and because she comes from the same mountainous region that my father comes from, and she could say, yeah, I remember these old geezers that were in their 80s and 90s going up hillsides, steep hillsides with their goats and stuff like that in their 90s and all that. And yeah, that's what we used to eat. You could hardly get any wheat or stuff like that. You got it, and you occasionally had a small amount, and it was like a treat. It wasn't the main food. And I go, think about those things, Thea, because that's what we call an auntie, Thea. And she goes, yeah, you're right. I forgot all about this, but now I'm thinking about these old people. And I said, you're the last of at your generation that still has memory of these things. I don't. You lived with these people and saw them, these pastoralists, that you're a child of the pastoralists. You lived amongst those people in that village in the mountains, and you saw them. You're an eyewitness. I'm not. So yeah, we had a bit of that conversation. And this is what I'm saying. Since then, the blue zones have gone to hell in a handbasket. All these tourist areas have come in. You've even got Salad Boy down there in Nagoya, with all these other, honey laden treats that he's trying to sell to the locals. So that's the problem. You got all these loonies and the crackpots and basically gurus, dropping into these areas and sort of trying to monetize it at the expense of other people. That's not trying to understand what is happening, what happened in the past when these people, these old people that got to their 90s and all that, how did they get there? Now you look at the food environment, even in the blue zones, the food environment's changed radically. You can't find these people. You find the locals who are just eating basically processed food in many cases. It's a joke, So blue zones pretty much are very unreliable nowadays, and especially when they focus in the non-traditional areas. Even as I said to people, you want to see the real Greece, go inland. Don't stay on the coast. The coast is corrupted and commercialized. Go inland if you really want to see the old Greece. It's also confounded. It's also unclear nowadays. It's who knows most of this sort of stuff. I go back and look at the old, if you look at the old reels of, tribal people, or the old reels of the Inuit, sitting there hacking away and eating all this raw meat and stuff like that. And they don't even have a word for cancer or cardiovascular disease. That's, even the old video in 1943, even in 43, there were stores in some of these areas. The Inuit was still able to access some Western foods in 1943. So you really have to go even further back when Stefansson was around, in the 20s and 30s, to basically really even, Weston A. Price. He went around in the 1930s and 20s. That was the last time, you could still find one ethnic group that was eating their traditional diet and one group that it was close to a store that was actually eating foods of civilization, as he dubbed them. If you try to find Today, the populations, those who have lived to over 100, those sort of things, you won't find them. What you'll find is a food environment that's been corrupted. So you don't know what these people really ate historically. So it's just ignore it. It's just garbage. I wouldn't waste my time. It's completely and utterly garbage. I look at even barley, barley's changed completely, you know.